Hi, and welcome to another art journal layout for Limor Weber Designs. I'm starting with my go-to technique for creating an interesting background, but this technique is very quick and easy. Actually, I'm using this tissue paper roll, which is by Tim Holtz, and I'll be sticking it on my layout with gel medium. The gel medium I'm using is by Faber-Castell. So I'm quickly applying on top of my page, and then I'm going to stick the tissue paper on top of my page. I'm going to do this on both my pages, and once this is dry, I'm using my scissors to cut out the excess of the tissue paper. Today's layout is quick and easy, and it's a great project for beginners. And you can find a full list of supplies as always on my blog as well as on Limor Weber Designs blog. And if you're watching on YouTube, check the description area just below the YouTube video. And here's another of my go-to techniques. When I stick down tissue paper, I always like to apply a gesso wash. The gesso I'm using is by Faber-Castell, and as you can see, the idea is not to cover up the text, but rather push it more at the background. And now for the fun part, as it's time to add color to the background. I am using icing inks, and I have chosen topaz and cactus. So this is topaz there. I just love the cup. The two colors that I've chosen are shiny, and you'll see how my layout is going to be shimmering at the end. Now, I don't really like glitter. I'm not a big fan of glitter, but I do love shimmer, and you'll see how shiny this page is going to end up. Now, as you can see, I'm applying my paint with a wet brush. I am dipping my brush into water as I wanted to apply a light wash first, and now I'll go ahead and do the same with avocado. I'm going to bring a new brush now. These are one of my favorite brushes. This set is by Ranger. These are artist brushes, and I just love the price as well as how nice and soft they are. They are great for mixed media. Anyway, these are my go-to brushes, and now I'm doing the same thing with avocado. I'm applying with a brush from the bottom towards the top, and I'm going to blend the two colors where they meet. And check how easy they blend just by using my finger here. And once this first wash was dry, I went over the whole page with my topaz ink, and this time I'm not using water. I'm just going over it with thick paint to create a nice and bold background. When you are creating backgrounds for your art journals, just remember that they don't have to be perfect, because you are going to add so many focal points on top of them and add interest on your page, so no one is actually going to see, not even you, the faults on your background. And here is one of my go-to techniques. I always like to add some whipped spackle. That's a product by Faber-Castell, and it actually is working as a modeling paste, and this is one of my favorite stencils, and I'm going to add some interest here and there. Now, I thought that my background was quite dark, so I wanted to lighten up a bit, and that's why I'm adding some white embossing paste there. I'm using my stencil here and there all over the page. A little goes a long way on this technique, and maybe you have noticed that I dipped my spatula only once on the pot. Once all those little dots were dry, I went ahead and used another stencil. This is one of my favorite stencils to create clouds, and I'm going over some of these clouds here and there. Now at this point I knew I wanted to add a lot of wording on my page as well as a couple of birds. And that's why that as I add my clouds, I try to leave lots of empty spots in between, so I have a lot of space to add my quote later on. I'm actually going to stamp it, as well as have space to stick my birds on. And as I'm doing the clouds, let me answer one of the most common questions that I'm getting through emails and comments, and that's where do I find inspiration? Now, I don't really have a recipe for you, and I do have problems with inspiration a lot of times. However, I have a notebook, and that's a notebook where I write down quotes. And when I really like a quote, I just note it there. And I have so many quotes written there that I don't think I'll probably ever going to make a layout for each one of them. And so that's one source of inspiration for me. And the other source is the supplies. When I see a supply that I want, like this stencil for example, or the stencil that I'll be using today for the birds, I want to use it, and I try to combine that supply with one of the quotes that I already have written down on my notebook. And that's more or less how I go by with this art journal. Both stencils that I've used today for my background are by the Crafters Workshop, and the first one was the mini tile texture, and the second one is called the clouds. Now you can see how my finished background looks like, and I just love the shimmer on it. And I'm going to let this dry for a bit, and I'll work on my focal points. And this is one of Dina Weekly's new stencils, and I just love those birds. I wanted to use this for quite a while, so today is the day. Now I'm going to be using again my Icing inks, and I've used these three colors, which are saffron, mango and mimosa. I'm adding a few drops of each color on my craft mat. By the way, this craft mat is by Ranger, and I get a lot of questions about it. It's a great surface to work on when you are working on mixed media or art journaling projects. Now I'm spraying my colors with water, and this is going to help all colors to mix. And I'm using this manila tag to swipe all the color. Now I just love the outcome because although it's blended, it's not flat. And I'm also using some water on top of it. I'm spraying water just to make it more runny, and I'm going to let it dry. Now since I have all this ink on my mat, I don't want this to be wasted, so I'm going to add one more tag on top and just use up all the color. Now that the tag is dry, I'm using this stencil with the birds at the back, and I'm going to be using my pen to draw a couple of those birds at the back of my tag. Once I have the birds drawn there, I'm going to use my scissors and cut them out. At this point, I'm also taking into consideration the direction that I want my birds to fly on the page, and that's why I'm drawing them now at the back on the opposite direction. So I have the birds now there, and I'm just going to use my scissors. If I had to choose just one favorite color combo, then that would be blue and orange, and that's why I'm using orange on these birds, just because I think that the combination is really striking. Another way to create the birds was by using patterned paper, and that would add probably a texture on the birds, or you could also use newspaper with the text on top and then color it over. At this point I'm using gel medium to stick down both the birds on my layout, and if you look closely you can see where gel medium is around the birds. Now that's not a problem because gel medium dries totally clear, and you won't be able to see where that was applied. And that is the reason why I don't like using glossy gel medium, because when that dries it's glossy and you can always see where it was applied. Now everything is dry, and I can use my Pitt Artist Pen Big Brush Markers by Faber-Castell to add some dimension on my birds. I'm adding just a few lines here and there around the border of my shape, and I'm blending it out with my finger. I don't care if that goes outside the lines, as it's very easy to wipe it off before it's totally dry. If you are one of my viewers, you know what I'm doing at the moment. It's one of my go-to techniques, and in any case, just to remind you that you can't do this technique with any other marker like Copics, for example. What's special about this markers by Faber-Castell is that they are Indian ink, and you can really blend them out on non-porous surfaces like the one that I'm using now. You can do blending, but you have to move fast because once the marker is dry, it's becoming permanent and you won't be able to move the ink around. Now I'm using a dark blue shade to go around the outside edge of the shapes of the birds and blending them out again with my fingers. This technique really brings everything together on your page, and that's what I like to always do when I stick things on top of my page. Add some shadows and dimension and bring everything together with my paintbrush markers. And finally, when I'm happy with the shading, I'll go ahead and use my black pen. This is a pen by Faber-Castell and it comes in a set that's called Essential Pens. And I think I'm using the small one, the one with the small tip. I'm going all around the edges of the bird and add some black lines. Now, I'm not doing any continuous lines, that I rather do sketchy lines, as you can see here. In this bird I think it's shown better. And this defines the shapes more and bring them more to life and somehow pop them out of the page. And finally I'm using my white gel pen. This is Signo Uniball pen and I love how it works on my pages. And I'm going around the shape again, making sure that I don't add the continuous lines but rather sketchy. So I'm not making an effort to create a smooth line all around. And finally it's time to add my quote. I'll be using this stamp set which is called Tall Text and it's by Tim Holtz, and I'll be using the lower letters. I am taking my time to create each word and I'll be stamping it with archival black ink. Only for one of the words in my quote, that's for the word Soar, I've used another alphabet stamp set which is called Worn Text and it's by Tim Holtz again. That alphabet set has bigger and bolder letters and I love to use it to emphasize some of the words on my quote, and you can see the result here. Now finally, once the whole quote is on my page, I'm using my white gel pen to add some interest on the letters. One of my favorite techniques with my gel pen over my quote is to add a border only on one side of the letters, and that's what I'm going to do here. You can see that I'm only using my gel pen only on the left side of each letter, and you'll see the impact at the end. It really brings the letters to life, it adds tons of dimension, and I just love the outcome. So you can see how I'm doing it here. You have to excuse the noise at the background as my kids are playing hide and seek while I'm doing my voiceover. Sorry about that. And that's the finished page, quick and easy, and I just love the color combo as well as the shine all over the pages. And that was the layout for today. I hope you had fun and got inspired. And if you did, don't forget to give me thumbs up on my YouTube channel as well as leave me a comment. Thank you all for watching.